Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening. This is our first podcast, so this is a test. It was hot in there because we had to turn off the air, so the door was open, flies flying around, and all the good things happening. But I had such a great conversation, and I hope you enjoy it, and we'll improve. So, this is a little PSA. Enjoy the show.
Okay. Welcome to the Soul Music Preservation Society, where we archive, uplift, and celebrate the roots of Southern Black culture through sound, story, and spirit. I'm your host, Thaddeus Shahi Rowell, and today's episode is nothing short of a living treasure. We are honored to be joined by a historian, a storyteller, an elder of the Florence Shows community that lived here through the tides of history from segregation to soul music, from marches to milestones. And today we get to learn from her lived wisdom, Miss Anita Cobb. Uh, could you tell us your full name?
My full name is Anita Louise Smith Cobb.
Beautiful. And how long have you lived in the shows?
Well, I was born here in West Lauderdale County, stayed here until I was 20, moved away to Michigan, stayed in a little area near Detroit for 38 years, retired, and came to Clarksville, Tennessee, where we had a little farm, and we stayed there about 20 years. And then my husband, who is a native of Leeton, Alabama, became ill, and he wanted to move back home. So in 2012, we moved to Leeton, and we stayed there until, well, I stayed there until about 3 years ago when I moved back to Florence. My husband expired, and I decided that I needed to be closer to where things were going on since I was spending so much time in Florence anyway. So I bought a townhouse, and I like it, and I'm home, and that's great.
And you're home. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you grew up around Oak, Oakwood,
Oakland,
Oakland in the country,
hmm
by Roseville.
near Rhodesville.
Okay, that's where a lot of my family's from too.
Right,
So I'm
right.
guessing that's where our shared traits come from.
Yeah.
Uh, I just want to know what your childhood was like when you were younger.
Well, let me just say this. My parents were married during the Depression, so that there was not a lot of money available to do things. So they were married in 1933. My mother had graduated high school, wanted to go to college, but there was no money, so she got married. I was born in 1934 on my grandparents' farm. Now, my grandparents lived on the Canaan Road, which is, I think, County Road 62.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it goes from 15 all the way to 189. It's a little fairly short road, but it is where the solar farm
Yeah.
now exists. The solar farm is exactly on the site where I was born.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh wow. That's when people were getting born at home.
at home.
At home with
Right,
the
with
midwife.
midwife. Right. Right.
uh,
Well, I was born, as I said, in my grandfather's farmhouse, and then my mother and dad moved to a house on West Mobile Street. I guess that would be something like 823 West Mobile. There were two houses on that property. My grandmother lived in one, and my mother and daddy and I
lived in
lived
the
in the
next one.
other. And I stayed there until I was probably 3 years old.
Mm.
My mother decided that she was determined to go to college. My brother had been born in August. She decided that she was going to start Alabama A&M University, which was A&M College
College.
then,
Normal college.
in January. So she weaned my brother, who was, at that time, all the children were breastfed, and told my daddy that she was going to go to school. He wasn't very happy about that, but they 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 weathered the storm, and we moved in with my grandparents. My dad worked at TVA, and we were in the custody of our grandparents because they were at home all the
Yeah.
time. And my mother went to school in January of 1938. She worked from she was in school from January of 1938 until August of 1938, which gave her one semester and one summer. In 1938, she was offered a job by Lauderdale County Schools
Oh wow.
at New Rock Church.
New Rock had a school.
New Rock was the church was the school.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So that on Sixth, right across from where your,
Hmm.
I guess Mr. Frank would be your,
Grandfather.
okay,
My great grandfather.
grandfather,
Mhm.
right across from where Mr. Frank lived.
Oh wow.
That's where you know where Ananias has the,
The
okay,
church, New Rock
the
Church of God in
right there.
Christ.
Right. Well, that was where the school was.
Wow. Actually, that's where I learned how to play the organ.
Is that right?
New Rock Church of God in Christ.
Okay,
My
okay.
Uncle Ananias' church.
Well, that was her first job, and she worked there all year, from I guess September until May or June, whenever school was out. She had to live with Mr. Roy Peters
Mm.
because there was no transportation for people to get back and forth to
To
work.
town.
So you had to live with somebody during the week
In
and go
town.
home. Yeah,
And then go home on the weekend.
on the weekend.
Oh
Yes.
wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So
It was
that's
the same
what
way
she
in
did.
school though. Like
Yeah.
they had to like if they wanted to go to high school, they would have to have like a border house
Right. Well, she
during
went through
the
that
week.
experience too. But as far as I was concerned, I would go to New Rock School with her occasionally.
Hmm.
And W.S. Andrews and J.B. Bryson and all those people were in school, and they would not let me walk. They would just put me on their shoulders and carry me to school.
How long was their walk? Okay.
And it was probably half mile,
Half a mile.
something like that.
Okay.
And we walked to New Rock School. And as I said,
That was a daily trip.
back and forth.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
Got you.
Well-
I got all your steps in.
But the thing of it is that I didn't go there that much because I couldn't stay up there at the Peters house that long.
Mhm.
But when Miss Corrine Armstead died, she was the primary teacher at Mount Zion School.
Mhm.
She died in 1939, and in 1939 they offered that job to my mother. And my mother worked at Mount Zion School from 1939 to 1940, I guess 46 or something like that.
So, discussing those days as far as because I'm noticing a correlation between school and the church.
Yes.
So a lot of churches were like the main educators, especially for I'm guessing black students.
They were the place where many of the schools were located. Now, there were certain schools that were Rosenwald schools, and they were specially built by the Rosenwald Foundation
Mhm.
and supervised by either Tuskegee or Fisk.
Fisk University
Mhm.
in Nashville.
And those buildings had to be had a special code,
Oh,
and all of them are built alike, so that if you see one Rosenwald school, either a one room or two room, you see them all because they had to have meet certain specifications.
yeah.
Mount Zion was a Rosenwald school. Bethel Lauderdale was a Rosenwald school. Um, there was a school on the coffee plantation called Coffee School that was a
Mhm.
Rosenwald school.
Yeah.
But there were many Rosenwald schools throughout the county. But my mother was able to work at Mount Zion. She had gone to Mount Zion as a student, and then from there she went on to Burrell and then on to A&M. When she was able to work at Mount Zion, that was closer to where we lived.
Mm-hmm.
So I could walk with the other school kids to Mount Zion School.
For sure.
That was about a 3 mile trip each way.
Wow.
But when we got to school, I was able to sit in the school, although I was not enrolled as a student. I was probably four, and 4, 4.5, something like that. And of course, being in a one-room school where there are 3 grades being taught, while one group did one thing,
Wow.
the other did another assignment, and the other did a recitation.
Mm-hmm.
So during the time that they were going over the work for the second and third graders, the little first graders or the pre first graders had to sit and listen. So by the time I was 4 years old, I could read well,
Wow.
and all the foundation was set
A
at
little
Mount
child
Zion
prodigy.
School.
Reading
No,
at
I
4
wouldn't
years
say that.
old.
I just think that the fact that you were there and you had to be
You didn't really
quiet,
have a
you couldn't do
choice.
anything but listen.
That's real.
So naturally, if you hear it over and over again, you learn it. At 6 years old, I started Slater School as a second grader because I had learned all the first grade stuff. So I was ready for the second grade.
Were they allowing you to skip grades back then?
Yes.
Yeah.
I went to the second grade from March until June, and then I got promoted to the third grade.
Wow.
And from then on, I didn't skip anymore.
Oh,
I
wow.
was really too young to even be in the second
Yeah.
grade, but nevertheless, I did. But that generally was my general childhood up until I was 6 years old. And the rest of it was primarily dealt with church and school and activities in
Yeah.
the community and that kind of thing.
Can you talk about a little bit about because you went to Mount Zion AME Church
Yes.
growing up. Have you noticed a change in like culture, as far as church culture, and as far as like the music that was sung back then? Because you're AME Church. W.C. Handy, father, was the pastor of also a AME Church, Greater St. Paul up the street.
Right.
And I'm guessing y'all share similarities, and you even knew
Definitely.
W.C. Handy. But
Yeah.
talk about the church culture growing up in the AME Church in Florence.
The AME Church was primarily a hymn singing church.
Mhm.
We still sing hymns.
Hymns.
However, Mount Zion was a Methodist church in a sea of Baptists. So
Oh.
you had Bethel and Good Hope and Spring Hill
Shiloh.
and Galilee and all of those churches surrounded. So that on the first and third Sundays, a lot of those churches met because you didn't have church every Sunday. On the second and fourth, Mount Zion met. So people from those churches would come to Mount Zion.
Oh wow.
And as a result, their Baptist hymn singing
Uh-huh.
with the lining of the hymns and all of that was kind of introduced into the AME church service.
Wow.
However, the AME church had always had the Decalogue and all of the traditional kinds of liturgy
Uh-huh.
in the church. So we did the I guess the prayer service you would call it
Mhm.
with just a variety of various kinds of music,
Yeah.
and then we went into the Decalogue, and then we did the Methodist hymns.
Wow.
And at that time, a lot of music was a cappella, no,
No piano.
instrumental.
Yeah.
And I think it must have been about 1943 when Mount Zion got the first piano.
Wow.
Now, there had been a piano in the school because the school was right next
next
to
to
the
it.
church. But the piano was only in the school. There was no piano in the church.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And-
I've never realized, because my I want to say my great great uncle Oh, Robert Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
He was the preacher at
And
St.
good.
John
And
and
rock.
and Rock Church.
Yes.
And so now it makes sense. I was like, how was he doing it back then? But you just explained that they didn't have church every Sunday.
No. St. John met on the second and fourth Sunday, and Rock met on the
On
first
first
and
and
third
third.
Sunday.
Wow.
And Reverend Johnson lived right next to Rock
Wow.
with his, 18 children?
He had a
17.
lot. He had a lot.
Now, I can tell you a lot of stories about New Rock and your great-great-grandmother, and Gussie.
Uh-huh.
And Gussie was probably one of the most religious women I've ever known.
Is that a good thing?
Yes, it was in her case.
Okay.
Mr. Charlie, who was one of her sons, Reverend Robert,
Uh-huh.
Mr. Charlie, Mr. Frank, all of those were her boys. Well, Mr. Charlie's wife had passed away, and Governor and all of those, JC and all
Yeah.
of those were,
Governor Senior.
yes,
Johnson.
just
Yeah.
Governor Senior, were all left without a mother. So Aunt Gussie moved in with Mr. Charlie, who was a sharecropper with my grandfather. He lived
Wow.
on my grandfather's farm.
Wow.
So I grew up with Aunt Gussie and JC and Sazy and Tata, Idley, all of those, yeah. But at any rate, Aunt Gussie we would have to chop cotton in the spring,
Mhm.
and she would tell us to roll them rocks, because that was a way of
What that
getting.
mean?
Because there were rocks, there were occasionally rocks in the soil,
For sure.
and we had to, thin the cotton out so that it could grow without, I guess, a lot of whatever. But we had to roll the rocks out of the soil,
Wow.
and she would lead us in this chopping cotton thing. But every August, and I think it was the second Sunday in August, there was what she called a dinner on the ground in New Rock. And she would start cooking on Monday.
Wow.
And she would cook cakes and pies and vegetables and
Man.
chicken and pork, all of this stuff. And on that Sunday, she would use my grandfather's wagon that had a long bed in it, and she would put all of these pies and cakes on a quilt,
Uh-huh.
lay them out, put a sheet over them, and we would go to New Rock. There was very little space for the children to sit, but we always wanted to go because there was always a big day at New Rock, and they would spread the dinner on the ground. They would put the quilts and
Wow.
the tablecloths and all of that on the ground and put the food out. And you could just help yourself. And it was just a big, glorious day.
They kept that tradition going up until, when I was younger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was every, I want to say, fourth Sunday, and we would go because we
Was
would.
it in August?
It was.
It might have been in July. I know it's in the summertime.
It was definitely hot.
And we sit up under the tree.
But they had built a trailer out there. They had a kitchen.
Yeah.
By the time the 80s and 90s, I'm guessing, because it looked like it was quite older. But to have an actual fellowship hall,
Yeah.
and we would go down there and eat,
Oh, yeah.
and could guarantee to get a big meal.
Oh,
And
yeah.
my grandmother went to that church, so it was just
Yeah.
a lot of like she cooked all the time anyway.
Right.
All the stuff from the garden.
Well, we just had a big feast.
Yeah.
And we always went to New Rock for that. But Aunt Gussie was one of those persons who would shout in church. So you always knew she was present because she
Charismatic.
always had that amen response kind of thing. But she was a wonderful lady.
I love
Just
it.
just a wonderful lady.
I love it.
Yeah.
Brung up WC Handy a little bit earlier, and we're about 2 weeks away from the WC Handy Festival. It's about 2 weeks away.
Right.
And maybe I heard it, but do you have a story about WC Handy? Did you get to meet him? at one point in
I
time?
knew him
You knew him
personally.
personally.
I'm probably one of the few people around who had personal contact with W.C. Handy.
Wow.
Now, my first contact that I can remember with him was when I was in the third grade. And Mr. Handy would come to Florence. And anytime he was in Florence, there were two places he always went. He went to St. Paul Church
Mm-hmm.
and he went to Slater School. Now, Slater was an elementary school.
Yes.
There on the corner of Court and Limestone.
Mm.
And if school was in session, like during the winter or during the, when school was in session, he would come and play for us. We would have a dedicated assembly because we had assembly every day.
Mm-hmm.
We started the day off with assembly. We would have a dedicated assembly, and he would talk to us and encourage us to do well in school, and he always brought his trumpet, and he played the St. Louis Blues for us.
Oh wow.
And also, there were times when he and the teachers would sing spirituals that he had arranged, and we would have the program, the assembly program, primarily set was about the spirituals and
Yeah.
the background of the spirituals and that kind of thing. But at St. Paul Church, he had dated my Sunday school teacher, whose name was Amanda Simpson. They had been an item as teenagers. Well, whenever he came to Florence, he always came to Sunday school with Miss Mandy.
Oh wow.
And there were 7 little third grade kids, girls, who was in her Sunday school class, and I was one of them. And he would always come and talk to us, shake our hands, and all of that kind of thing. It was a wonderful experience.
Was
because
he blind
at that
at this time?
No,
No.
he was not blind at that time.
Okay.
Uh, we just knew that he was somebody famous. We didn't know the
How big.
worldwide,
Yeah.
the worldwide impact of his music. But whenever he came to Florence, he always made it a point to come to those two places. And later on, after I got to college, we had to do a senior project, which was a kind of a mini dissertation.
Mm-hmm.
I chose to do my project on 4 people who had come from the Shoals area and had done well in life. And W.C. Andrews was one of those. So when I began the project, I had to contact him. By this time, he was blind. He was losing
blind
his
by then.
eyesight. And he sent me all kinds of information about himself, and I have some autographed hymn books and music books
Oh wow.
that he had given to me during my senior year in college. And after that, I had an opportunity to go to New York, and he sent a limousine to get me to come to his office, which was downtown Manhattan.
Wow.
And I spent maybe a half day just talking and looking and all of that, talking about Florence and that kind of thing with him. By
That's
this time, he
amazing.
was blind.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because he had a. Did you ever go to the movie premiere?
Yes.
Did you go?
Well,
see
I
it?
went to the movie. I don't think it was the premiere, but I did. Yeah. That was
Okay.
that. Yeah.
We're talking about the St. Louis Blues movie that starred Nat King Cole.
Nat King Cole. Yeah.
That was a big deal.
Yes. Yes.
But one thing about the movie is it never showed that he was from Florence, Alabama. They
It
showed
primarily
that he was
from Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And of course, many people did not know
Where Florence
that
was.
because he lived in Memphis and a lot of his music was done in
Based in
Memphis.
Memphis.
So that, and there is a W.C. Andy festival or something in
In
Memphis. So
Memphis.
many people,
Just thought he was from there.
right, right, yeah.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
that was always interesting.
But when I grew up also, the W.C. Andy house sat at the corner of Long Lane and what I called, we call it Cherokee Street now, but it was
Yeah, I know Cherokee.
Circular Road at that point.
Yeah, going
And-
down the tour off of Mobile.
Yeah,
Not Mobile, but
going toward
Irving.
Irvin,
Yeah.
right? And that house sat there for a long time, and we just knew that it was a cabin of W.C. Handy,
Oh wow.
and it wasn't until later that it was moved to
To
where
College
its
Street.
present location. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I do want to talk about because you were a part of something we call the Great Migration period,
Yeah.
and you moved up north, which that was what the Great Migration was. Uh, and what was the culture like between moving to Michigan or is it Ohio? You moved to
No, Michigan,
Michigan, outside of Detroit.
outside of Detroit.
Was it Ypsilanti?
It was about halfway between Ypsilanti and Detroit. A
Oh,
little place called Inkster.
okay.
I lived in Westland, which was next door,
Hmm.
but I worked in Inkster. And Inkster is the home of the Marvelettes.
Oh
We
wow,
got them started.
wow.
Yeah,
The Marvelettes from the 1960s were a girl group trio signed to I want to say Motown Records.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. And I'll say this, I had an opportunity to work with Berry Gordy, but I did not accept it, and I tell you the reason why.
Please.
At the time, the Marvelettes were discovered, and we promoted them with Berry Gordy. Uh, the students were still in high school,
Oh,
so he needed someone to tutor them and to keep their schoolwork going while they were touring. So he offered a job to myself and Shirley Sharpley, we had been the
wow.
student council advisors that got the talent show winners to audition with Motown.
Wow.
Barry Gordy was still working at Ford Motor Company, and he wanted us to go on tour with
High school
these
students.
groups.
Yeah.
And there were other teenagers, from the Detroit area.
Yeah.
Many of those young groups, Smokey Robinson and all those, were
Yeah.
still teenagers.
Yeah, they were
And they
young.
needed not only
Teachers.
teaching, they also needed some chaperoning.
Wow.
Well, when he offered us the job, I thought about it and I said, no, I'm not going to do this because Barry Gordy's still working at Ford. So I really did not anticipate
Oh man.
Motown
Blowing up.
blossoming up
Yeah.
the way it did.
That's amazing.
I would not have done it anyway because my
Yeah, with your
my
husband.
oldest son was 6 months old.
Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna leave my husband
baby.
and my baby for that, but it was an interesting incident that I had that opportunity, and he asked us, well, we'll make it. You can get a leave from your job and all of this. I mean, he made us a pretty good offer.
Wow.
But she decided she was not going to do it because she had a young child and I had a young child. So we didn't get in on the floor at Motown,
Man.
but we had that opportunity. We
That's
just
beautiful, though.
turned it down.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
you need to be writing this autobiography like
Well,
quickly.
my children tell me that all the time.
You don't
But
want to
I
listen.
just-
Take heed.
I just
Take
have not
heed.
done that. I've recorded some things, but I
sure.
have not written very much down.
I would like to explore. What do you remember specifically about traveling back here after the '50s? I know you were in Michigan, but did you ever travel back down here? And what was like the race relations as far as downtown? Because we know they were separated into sections. You had East End, you had all the different sections of where black people
Yeah.
had businesses and were growing.
Well, uh, I went to Michigan in 1954,
Mhm.
along with the many, many other folk
Great
who were there.
migration, for sure.
And we were in a situation where Detroit was very segregated.
Mm.
There were people on the East End, which we call Black Bottom, down by Reverend Franklin's church.
Hmm.
And there was a pocket of people over near the Grand Boulevard, Grand River area. There was a pocket of people there.
Mm-hmm.
Housing was not open to black people, so many of them moved to Inkster because this was an area that was growing and there was plenty of land. They
Mm-hmm.
could have gardens and that kind of thing. So Inkster just kind of mushroomed.
Wow.
And by 1954, people from everywhere, you know, far as Texas and New York and Illinois, I mean, everywhere were coming to Inkster. And it was kind of like the pop city of that day.
Yeah.
And I did not know very many. As a matter of fact, I knew nobody when I went to Inkster. I knew people in Detroit,
Wow.
but I did not know
In Inkster.
any people in Inkster. So I moved to Inkster with a lady who worked in the school, and I got to know people there and that kind of thing. But in reference to your question,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I came back every summer. My parents were still alive, and we had things we needed to do and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I saw a growth in Florence that disturbed me, and that was really uh, the displacement of East End. The white merchants began to inch into parts of East End. Then the school burned.
Yeah.
By that time, it was Burl Slater High School because the old Burl had been uh, dissolved, and the formation, the high schools moved to the elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
and the W.C. Handy over on Irvin became the elementary school for blacks.
Oh wow.
Okay, so as I would come back, I would notice buildings being demolished and other buildings taking their place. This was the heart of the black business community.
They were all like a lot of majority black businesses were getting.
The
Were they getting pushed out? Was it a city renovation? What were they doing?
It was urban renewal, and they built Dock Six Boulevard and cut that community in half.
Wow.
When they put the Dock Six Boulevard, they just made all that
Into a road,
yeah,
to a highway. I guess for the listener, we need to explain who Dr. Hicks was. Can you explain who that was?
Dr. Hicks was a prominent black physician in Florence who was probably one of the most, well, he was an excellent doctor,
Mm-hmm.
but he was not allowed to practice in the hospital
Yeah. Due to
due to segregation.
segregation.
Right. But he was an excellent doctor, and his office was a two-story building just to the east and south of St. Mark Church.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a downstairs was a set of steps going upstairs. His office was on the second floor,
Mm-hmm.
and he had probably the best run office in town. Black people went there because if they had gone to a white doctor, they would have to sit out in the hall. They were not able to go into the
Into the
regular
doctor's
waiting
office.
room.
Yeah.
So they had to sit out in the hall and wait maybe half day because they were always being overlooked.
Overlooked by the other.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So on a given day, especially Friday and Saturday, Dr. Hicks's office was full.
Packed.
I mean, it was packed in there. There was like a area around the staircase
Mhm.
where people sat, and and this nurse was like I mean, she was a protector, secretary, receptionist, all of those things combined. And if you made noise, you couldn't make a lot of noise. You know, you could talk
Doctor's
quietly, but
Mhm.
you couldn't, you know. And if the baby started crying, she had them ushered out. But
She was not for the games.
yeah, but Dr. Hicks was a very, very excellent doctor. People from all over came to him, and I was always amazed because his office was just one big room. I mean, the waiting room was one area, and then behind the waiting room was his office, and it was divided into four sections. The
Mm.
first section was kind of a consultation where he talked about, what was ailing you and that kind of thing. The next area was a examining area. The next area was a lab, and he did his own lab work. He did his
Wow.
own blood work, And the last area was a record room, and he had all of these folders, all these manila folders piled up. And it always amazed me how he could go to that stack and pull
File
your
quick.
file quickly.
He's organized. Obviously.
But
Had to be.
I think he only knew the organization because he did all of that himself.
That's
He really
amazing.
worked himself to death. I mean, he tried to go to make home visits
Oh
and
no,
all
with
of
the
that.
office too, trying to
Yes,
make home
yes, yes,
visits. I
yes.
guess for the time, because everybody didn't have cars
And then people were too ill
to move.
to move.
Yeah,
And
and
as
there
I said,
wasn't like a hospice or
no,
a nurses you could call or something. So he was determined to make it work.
yeah. But he was very worthy of all of the accolades he's gotten.
Oh, that's beautiful. Local traditions, art, culture, uh, education. Uh, what would be a word that you would ascribe to the community back then to
I
those
would say
things?
Florence was ahead of the rest of North Alabama.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We had some excellent educational leaders.
Mm,
Uh, W.H. Lewis, was tops.
mm,
And he was responsible for doing a lot of things in the sports world
hmm.
for the black
Yeah.
schools. Uh, we had, well, let me just say this. Burrell was founded as a preparatory school,
Hmm.
1903. It was a part of the American Missionary Association,
Hmm.
which was a group of people who primarily funded and sponsored black education since Reconstruction, so that their primary purpose was to prepare people to go to college and to come back and teach.
Mm.
So we had a heads up on other schools
Wow.
because we had people from Nashville, and the AMA sent prepared teachers to Burrell Normal.
To
And
set
Burrell
it up.
Normal existed from 1903 to 1937.
Good
It was a
stretch.
tuition paying school.
Uh huh.
And in order for rural kids to come to high school, it was the only high school in Lauderdale County, only black high school in Lauderdale
Wow.
County. And in order for them to come, they either had to have relatives and live with those relatives and go to school, or they had to board with people in order to become educated. So at age 12, 13, 14, the girls were sent away from home to live with other people, to live with surrogate parents for the week,
Mm.
so they could be close to the school. And just where the W.C. Handy Museum is now, there were houses all in there. And those people who lived in those houses made room for the young ladies to live with them. So
Wow.
they were right there on campus almost and just had to walk across the field to the school.
Mm.
But I would say that our educational system was excellent.
That's
And
beautiful.
I've always felt that anyone who graduated Burrell could go anywhere in the world and hold their own
I love this.
because we were so well prepared. We had people who were uh, just great teachers, and they cared about you, and they supported you, and advised you, and all of that.
Man.
In terms of the music, Alma Robinson was Reverend Green's daughter. Reverend Green was the pastor of St. Mark for years.
Hmm.
If there was ever a genius in music, she was it.
Oh wow.
Every, as an elementary teacher, we would have chapel, and she would lead us in singing. Every day we had assembly, and every grade had to have every room had to have a day where they put on an assembly program. So those kids learned to sing and to read poems and dance and do whatever their talents were,
Hmm.
and display it to the other students. So by the time you got through elementary school, everybody had been on stage at least 3 or 4 times.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's nice.
yeah,
And she incorporated all the kids and got everybody involved
and gave you an opportunity to show off your talent.
to get on stage.
Yes.
Did you get on the stage?
Oh yes.
And I just want to say thank you for joining us on this powerful journey through time. Our guest today reminded us that history isn't something we read about. It is something we sit with, listen to, and honor. And if you're moved by today's episode, share it with someone who needs to remember where they come from. Until next time, this is the Soul Music Preservation Society, preserving the past so it can sing into the future. And thank you again, Miss Anita Cobb, for sitting with me.
Quite welcome. It's a pleasure.